What, you're not going to be a hero and save her? Leah figured some people were meant to fall prey to others. I haven't had a good smoke in 2 weeks. Sam exhaled a breath through his nose and toyed with a lighter in his spare hand. Besides, according to you, Rourke would rather have his cake than eat it, so what's there to worry about? Figures, Leah muttered. He's changed. Maybe we should just accept it. You can do what you want, Leah. Sam dropped the butt and put it out with his shoe. I'm keeping an eye on him, and I think you should keep an eye on Rain instead of worrying about me. I'm not the one trying to pick fights with him in hallways. Shut up, she scowled before returning home to find Rain half asleep. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. He's an idiot. I mean, I know you have better taste than Rourke. Rain cracked a smile. But what if he tells people that I tried to bite him? I couldn't care less what anyone in that school has to say. This is just a waste of time, Leah. I should be with Janny or on the move, not stuck here in some deadweight town. It's not safe and I'm not happy. This isn't the freedom I wanted, it's just another cage. Rain, you can't leave. Janny should be sending news soon, but they might be monitoring her. Janny hasn't sent anything in weeks. It's only a matter of time before they discover who he is. She brought up Rourke again, causing Leah to groan. Liz will probably be the one to learn it first if she ever gets her dumb blonde head out of the clouds. But seriously, Rain, you're making yourself sick over this. Just enjoy school. Date one of those friggin' football players, or come to the carnival. Shaking her head, she pulled a cigarette from her pocket and stormed down the stairs to light it up outside. Meanwhile, Liz had arrived at Rourke's and proceeded to wake him from a deep sleep as she repeatedly pressed her thumb against the doorbell. Opening his eyes, it took a moment for him to register what was going on, and he reached up to pull back the blinds. Oh, shit! Thankfully, the effects of Rain's attack had worn off, and he dragged himself out of bed rather groggily. Hey, Rose, make yourself scarce, would you? Of course, Rose had no intentions of doing anything except standing there with her arms crossed in a frightfully angry glare. Ignoring her for the time being, Rourke made his way downstairs and pulled back the door. Liz, what are you doing here? He asked with a yawn. You never called. Oops. Guess I kinda lost track of time. I'll say I was worried about you. What happened? Inviting herself in, she took a step forward, forcing him to back up. It's kind of a long story. You know, why don't we go upstairs? He suggested, steering her away from the hall and the horrible stink of pine air freshener that filled it. Housing problems? She asked curiously. Yeah, they're tearing out the whole basement. Anything to get her to leave well enough alone, which thankfully she did upon noticing the strange black lines that still ran up the side of his neck. My God, Rourke, what is that? Bad allergic reaction. I'll say, what happened? Well, I was going down to the nurse to get something for my mouth, and Leah's friend, he shook his head, Rain. What about her? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Oh yeah? She crossed her arms. Try me. Leading her down the hall, he stopped before he got to his room. She bit me. She what? Yeah, I don't know what the hell is wrong with her. She thinks she's a fucking vampire or something. She saw me in the hallway and tried to take a chunk out of me. Jesus Christ, Rourke, you have to go to the hospital. Nah, it's not that serious. Not that serious? Rourke, you know how dangerous a human bite is? Look at your arm. I had it checked, he lied. Believe it or not, she isn't rabid. It's already better than it was. Giving him a narrowed look, Liz put on a pout as he went for the door. They gave me some medication for it. That's why I didn't call. He lied again. I was passed out, but I'm practically better now. It should be gone in a few hours. I still think you need to get that looked at. It's fine, Liz. Seriously, you gotta stop worrying so much. You're always freaking out over me. I'm not a toy. I'm not gonna break. He gave her a grin, although she didn't return it. Ugh, look, could you wait here a second? I gotta pick up a few things. Like what, Rourke? Your drugs? Please, it's not like I don't know. Closing the door, he pressed a hand to the wall, which returned to its original painted color while the darkness that enveloped the bed vanished in a thin wisp, along with the Playboy posters that he had no desire to share. Spinning back around, he was startled as Liz disregarded him and pushed her way in. Hey, I told you to give me a second. I did, she mused, only to look up at the sound of a shrill eep from behind. Apparently, Liz wasn't the only one who didn't want to listen to Rourke today, and his eyes immediately widened. Offering a subtle glance in Rose's direction, he didn't bother to turn as he threw his foot back and with one swift kick pelted the creature into the closet whose door slammed shut on its own. What in the world was that? Oh, nothing. It does that sometimes, he said while something inside began to scratch. What do you have in there, Rourke? Oh, it's just the cat. Rose, knock it off. You keep your cat in the closet? Don't worry about it. She's used to it. She loves it in there. Liz's attention was successfully diverted as she wandered to his dresser and began to mull over some of the things on top of it. Are these your folks? Pulling a small framed photograph from his nightstand, she held it up to examine in more detail. Minted inside was an old photo of two young people and a little boy who he assumed was Rourke, the real Rourke, at a younger age. Yeah. In all honesty, he had no idea, but he figured that at this point it really didn't matter. You know, I don't think I've ever met them, Liz admitted as she took the frame and set it back down. They're kinda non-existent. Huh? Rourke shook his head. They work, you know? Dead hours. It'll kill ya. Gotta fend for myself most of the time, if you know what I mean. Yeah, actually I do. She took a seat on the bed where he joined her a moment later. What are they like? Your folks. Oh. Running a hand along his neck, he gave a shrug. Well, you know. No, I don't know. Tell me. Why? Why not? You never want to talk about anything. What do you mean? I talk all the time. Well, yeah, but not when it matters. You never want to talk about anything personal. Whenever I bring up anything about your life, you just shut down. I don't lead a very interesting life, Liz. There really isn't much to say. Well, then tell me. Come on, Rourke, you gotta open up a bit. You act like it's the end of the world whenever anybody brings it up. Ugh. Rolling his eyes, he gave a sigh. What is it you want to know? How about we start with your parents? What are they like? I don't really know my mother and my father. We never saw eye to eye on anything. Saw? He shook his head. I mean, we still don't. He tries to dictate my life. Has it in his head I'm going to be some kind of messiah or something. He doesn't care about me. It's just business to him. His expression darkened while Liz regarded him with curious intensity. When you're little, you don't see it. You just think that's the way things are. But eventually, the truth finds its way into your life. Lowering his gaze, he clenched his fists. I realized it wasn't the world that was different. What happened? I did what anyone my age would have done. I took off. He laughed, although it was forced. I think I was gone for a whopping 38 hours, and when I came home, he was waiting. With a belt. Liz's jaw dropped. He hit you? He tried. I snapped at him pretty good. Cost me 3 teeth and a split ear. After that, he locked me in my room and left me there for about a week. Said that if I was going to disobey him, I could starve. Needless to say, I never opened my mouth to him again. What he meant and what Liz took from it were 2 entirely separate things. That's horrible. Yeah, well, he's a horrible person. Although, you know what they say about father and son. You're not like that, Rourke. How do you know what I'm like? Reaching over, she went to pull his chin in her direction. I know you well enough to know you're not a monster. The look that crossed his face as she said this was actually painful. Can we talk about something else? Offering a sigh, she reached down and took his hand, which she proceeded to raise to her chest and pressed delicately above her heart. You know, you've got one too. Before he had the chance to say anything, she held a finger to his lips. Close your eyes. Why? Just do it. Liz? Opening them again, Rourke did so just in time to see her lean in and try to kiss him. Her own eyes closed in the process, which was the only thing that saved them both from an extremely horrible experience. As the moment her lips touched his jaws spread apart, revealing hundreds of elongated teeth that tore up his face in a hideous grin. Forcefully throwing her aside, she bounced onto the bed while Rourke flew into the bathroom. The doorknob left an impression against the wall, and Liz wasn't sure what to make of it as she got up to follow. Rourke? Her tone grew uneasy. Rourke, are you okay? Please say something. You're scaring me. It took a moment, though he eventually did respond. You gotta go, Liz. Like, now. His voice was strained and slightly off, which only put her on more of the offensive. Rourke, what's wrong? Please open the door. She reached for the knob, began to twist it, and jumped back as it was suddenly thrown closed again at a rapid pace. No! Get out! Get out now! Spinning on her heels, Liz raced down the stairs while Rourke was currently in the process of clinging to the sink. Panting through his teeth, which oozed black slime down the drain, he tried to gather himself. He hadn't been expecting her to kiss him, and frankly, it was a miracle he hadn't accidentally killed her. Far too upset to pay attention to where she was going, Liz happened to run straight past Rain on her way back to the house. Coming to an abrupt stop near a local bus bench, she promptly sat down. Are you okay? Liz, what happened? Why are you crying? The tears continued, and it was a few minutes before she was able to explain. Rourke, she sniffed through last breath. We were talking. I went to see if he was okay, and he freaked out. I don't know what I did. I've never seen him so angry. Did he hurt you? Ren's tone darkened. No, she shook her head. No, of course not. He just, I don't know. He got so upset. Maybe I shouldn't have pushed him. Rain found it hard to find something to say. Probably just needs space, she suggested idly. You know, everyone needs space. He lost a tooth today. That would put anyone in a bad mood. Liz didn't have much to say to that. Meanwhile, Rourke's condition began to stabilize. As his eyes returned to normal, he met his reflection in the mirror and, with a swift punch, shattered the glass into 1,000 pieces. Stepping out a few minutes later, he wandered back to his bedroom and plopped face first onto the mattress. The walls painted over in black again, and with a swift sliding gesture, he motioned toward the closet door. Sorry, Rose. Man, what a night. There was a soft eep as the tiny creature emerged, surprisingly not mad. Yeah, I know you heard that entire thing. Man, she probably thinks I'm an asshole. Eep. Like I had any control over it. How the hell was I supposed to know she was gonna do that? He turned to stare at the ceiling, and Rose jumped up beside him to poke his stomach. Huh? Yeah, I know. I'll get something tomorrow. Quit hounding me. 2 weeks? It has not been 2 weeks, Rose. Stop exaggerating. You know as well as I do I can't go that long without a fix. I'll get something soon. Just chill out. Besides, I gotta fix this with Liz first. The girl had returned home that night in tears, while Rourke spent the rest of his time trying to figure out exactly what he was going to do to improve the situation. The fact that it was Friday seemed to slip his mind, although as the beetling sound of yet another ice cream truck inched its way past his window, the obnoxious, spontaneous circus melody that erupted from it caught his ear, and so too did an idea. "Maybe they'll break up," Leah suggested as she and Rain ate dinner at the kitchen table. "Isn't it normal for couples to fight?" "I don't know. Do you really think a date? Between soccer, school, and student council, I don't have the time. Besides, you do realize my dad would kill the poor guy." She was upset. I didn't know what to do. "Whatever. The carnival's tomorrow, so that means we can forget about Barbie and Ken until Monday." Or so Leah thought, as early the next morning, Rourke was already on his way to Liz's house. A nervous expression adorned his face as he reached for a doorbell and shuffled his hands behind his back. Her mother had answered and given him a skeptical look, although he didn't say anything until Liz appeared at the foot of the steps. "Yes?" she asked with a wary, somewhat peevish expression. "Hey, Liz, about last night?" Pursing his lips, he bit the bottom one and shifted his weight against the pavement. "Look, I didn't mean to be, didn't expect... You really caught me off guard when you..." Rourke ran a hand down the front of his face. "Oh, this is so lame. I'm really empathetic when it comes to this kind of stuff." However, Liz seemed to find it amusing. Taking a step toward him, a smile crossed her face and she folded her arms. "Go on," she urged, trying to hide the satisfaction in her grin. "Well, I thought maybe these could say it better than I could." Reaching back around, he presented her with 2 top-class tickets to the night's carnival. How he'd managed to get a hold of them, considering they hadn't gone on sale till that morning, was a mystery, but there they were regardless. Raising a hand to cover her mouth, Liz tried to maintain her aggravated stance. "I don't know, Rourke," she mused as she searched his expression for some kind of resolve. "Still angry?" She brought her hand to her chin and gave a smile. "A little bit, but you might be able to make it up to me. If you pick me up at 8 and we go on every ride I want." Smile returning to his own face, he gave a nod of agreement. 8 sounds perfect." "Okay, I'll see you at 8. Don't be late or else." Her gaze narrowed and she pointed a finger at him before shutting the door and bounding up the stairs to do her hair as if nothing had ever come between them. Rourke returned to his own house and practically flew up the stairs himself. Peering at him from the bedside, Rose eeped as she noticed him shuffling through clothes. "Looks like you're going to have the place to yourself tonight," he told her, pulling out an old shirt and bringing it up for a smell just to make sure. "Got a date with Liz. I'll be back late." "Eep." Yeah, I'll pick up something, I promise." "Speaking of which..." Throwing a glance toward the door, he threw the shirt aside and hurried back downstairs. Slightly curious, Rose actually followed. She found him in the garage with his hands on his hips. His gaze panned the dingy room before coming to rest on an old black, red, and white mountain bike that looked as if it had seen better days. Within seconds, his grin returned, and he pulled the dusty thing from the wall. "Perfect," he snickered, as he threw down the kickstand and took a couple of steps back. "If I'm gonna pick her up, I might as well do it in style." Closing one eye, he narrowed the other and brought a thumb to his lips. Licking the tip of it, he began to scribble through the air as if to erase it from view. In doing so, the bike was suddenly coated in a deep black energy which cleared to reveal not a bicycle, but a gigantic black motorcycle with red and white flames painted across its sides, and a large grinning skull plastered over the front wheel cover. Crossing her arms as she watched this, Rose began to shake her head. "Oh, would you relax already? I'm not gonna run out. It's just for tonight." "Eat." "Hey, what are you, my conscience?" "You know what? Don't answer that." Ushering her back inside, Rourke pulled open the garage door and mounted the bike. "Man, I should have done this ages ago," he thought to himself as he reached forward, revved the engine, and took off like a shot. Pulling up in front of Liz's house a few minutes later, when she realized where the sound had originated, not to mention who was behind it, her jaw dropped. "Rourke? Oh my God, I didn't know you drove," she stammered, racing over as he removed his helmet. "Yeah, well, I've been saving it for a special occasion." "This is amazing." Running a hand across the frame, she could hardly believe it. "Yep, now come on, take a seat." He motioned for her to get on behind him. "Don't want to be late." "Oh, please, as if I'm ever late." Flipping her hair across her shoulder, Liz got onto the bike and wrapped her arms around his waist. Grinning from ear to ear, Rourke reset his helmet and leaned forward against the handlebars. "Hold on. Tight," he laughed as the engine revved and they zoomed toward the fair, while Liz's mother watched in horror from the front door. Despite Greenville's low popularity standard, the carnival was not an event to miss. Spread out across the length of Brom Park, it covered nearly half a mile, sporting everything from thrill rides to game stands to concessions of every shape and size. Finding a spot amongst the congestion, Rourke cut the engine and removed his helmet, while Liz stood in awe of the massive attractions which were already beginning to light up. "Look at the size of that roller coaster," she fawned. "And they have a Ferris wheel, too." "Sounds fun." Catching him by the arm, she began to tug him in the direction of the carny rides. "Slow down, they're not going anywhere," he stammered, struggling to keep up as she darted through the crowd. "Come on, Rourke, you're just too slow. Look, they have a spook house," she squealed, pointing to a large metal building supported on the back of a flatbed. "Spook house?" "Yeah, you know, like scary." Flashing their tickets to the operator, the two of them took their seats in a small motor cart, which began to move forward on a track. These things are supposed to be really scary, Rorik. Yeah, sure. They turned the corner into a dark room, and Liz was stuck to him like glue. Oh, come on, I've seen scarier stuff in a toilet, he muttered, though she wasn't laughing. Instead, she belted forth with a petrifying scream as a flash of light revealed a rotting corpse that lunged toward the cart, and Rorik began to laugh. Wow, I've never heard anyone scream like that. Getting off the ride, Liz was still clinging to him. It's not funny, she whined. Oh, come on, he patted her playfully. It wasn't that scary. Says you. You're the one who wanted to go on it, he chuckled before his attention was caught by one of the games, which just so happened to be a poker table. Hey, check that out. Rushing over, he pulled up a seat as the carny dealt a hand. You in, kid? He asked. Winner takes a prize. Oh, Rorik, look! Liz's eyes brightened at the sight of several beautiful stones mint inside a display case. You want one? He asked her. Do I ever? Okay then, count me in for the deal, he said, and slapped a 10 across the table. You really think you can win? It was probably rigged. Either that or the man sporting the goods could count cards, which wouldn't have been surprising considering the type of carnival it was. You want that stone? Rorik nodded. Then I'll win. Meanwhile, Rain was busy tearing apart a caramel-covered apple. This is amazing, she said between bites. Watching her with a grin, Leah had ordered a funnel cake. They're really good, she agreed as they walked around. Avoiding the haunted house simply because Rain wouldn't get it, Leah bought tickets for the roller coaster instead. So what does this do? Her friend asked while they were strapped in. Oh, it just takes you for a ride. Yelling as the coaster plunged its descent, Rain found herself laughing at the rush, and Leah looked just as amused. The two of them kept their distance from Rorik and Liz, although decided to play the carnival games themselves. I think that vendor cried, Leah said 10 minutes later as Rain carried a stuffed dragon that was roughly half her size. It wasn't long after that the carny began to crack a smile in Rorik's direction. Pursing his lips, he drew a card, and the man's gaze was not lost to him. Hey, Liz, check that out. The play worked, and she turned. Huh? What? I don't see anything. By the time she looked back, the carny was staring, mouth agape, as Rorik placed a royal flush across the table. Looks like I win. Time to pay up, buddy. How the hell did you... Man, kid, you've got a hell of a poker face. Liz screamed with delight and threw her arms around Rorik's neck. Oh my god, I can't believe you did that. You're so totally awesome. Bringing a hand to his chin, he thought for a second and smiled. Awesome, huh? You know, think I like the sound of that. Liz picked out a bright red gem, and the two of them began to wander off. Catching sight of another strange vendor, her attention shifted, and she immediately bounced over. Hey, look at this! Rorik stopped at the old carny wagon that stood beside a small clothed tent with a banner reading Madame Stravinsky. Sitting cross-legged atop an Indian-style pillow, an elderly woman dressed in purple gypsy robes and a large woven turban ran spider-like fingers across the surface of a white crystal ball. Look, Rorik, it's a fortune-teller! Liz exclaimed. Come closer, child, she beckoned. Give me your hand, and I shall reveal to you your... As Liz approached, the old woman suddenly reached up and took her sharply by the arm. Ow, hey! Trying to pull away, her expression darkened, and she reached for her arm while the woman's grip tightened. Oh, child, you are in danger. Terrible danger. Someone. Something. Her gaze rose as Rorik stepped forward, demanding she let go. Milky white eyes widened at the sight of him, and she did just that. You should not be here. The old hag pointed a snaggled finger toward him and began to rasp. What? What did she mean? Liz's gaze shifted from him to the woman and then to her palm. Don't listen to that old bat. She's just trying to scare you. That's how they make their money. Yeah, well, it worked. She's senile. Come on, Liz. Let's go for another ride or something. Before he had the chance to finish, a familiarly horrible sound filled the air, and Liz's expression went from worry to anger. Rorik Ivory, she screamed. What have I told you about that noise? Come on. We're going to find the biggest, nastiest hamburger in this place, and you're going to eat it. What? Staggering forward, she took him by the arm and began to pull him toward the food vendors. Liz, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't care if it's a condition, Rorik. I'm sick and tired of hearing that horrible thing. Marching up to the hamburger cart, Rorik stared at the dripping hunk of cow in disgust. I'm not eating that. Oh, yes, you are. 10 minutes later, Liz was watching in satisfaction as he finished the last of the burger and began to look relatively ill. That was horrible. I hate you right now, he groaned, clutching his stomach wearily. No, you don't, she said with a grin and quickly pulled him back to his feet. Now come on, that roller coaster is calling my name. Liz, I don't think that's a very good... Nonsense. Besides, you promised. I what? Every ride I wanted. Now come on, hop to it. Liz forced Rorik onto the coaster, ignoring the look of protest on his face, while over near the food courts, or rather a small hat vendor beside the burger stand, Sam and Matt went walking by. Hey, I'm gonna go get a hot dog. Matt jerked a thumb toward the concession while Sam began examining the hats. Waiting in line behind Rain, he noticed her after a second and greeted her with a smile. "Oh hey, I didn't see you behind that, toy," he chuckled, pointing to the gigantic stuffed dragon she was carrying. Moving the oversized plush, Rain looked back. "Hey Matt, you hungry too?" "Yeah, starving. Sam's been dragging me around on these dumb rides all day," he sighed as he pasted his hot dog with ketchup. Standing in front of a mirror, Sam had removed his usual hat and was now adorning another with a curious expression. "Hey Matt," he called, catching his reflection in the glass. "How do I look?" Arching a brow as the hat consisted of a pair of bright yellow eyes, a brim of jagged teeth, and 2 bobbly antennae coiled about the back, Matt shook his head and took a bite of the dog. "Like an idiot." "I don't know." Sam brought a hand to his chin. "I thought it might be a good look for me." "Which one? The hat?" Matt asked. "Or the idiot?" Paying for the burger smothered in cheese, ketchup, and mustard, Rain arched a brow herself. "He's already an idiot. The hat just makes it blatantly obvious." Matt agreed with a nod while Sam rolled his eyes and yanked it off to march over. "You guys suck, especially you," he pointed at Rain. Meanwhile, the roller coaster had just pulled to a stop, and Rourke and Liz had got out. Still adorning a gleeful expression, she went to yank him in the direction of the Ferris wheel, although this time he didn't budge. Looking positively green, he shook his head, clutched his stomach, and warded her off. "Rourke, are you alright?" "I don't feel so hot." "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were afraid of heights," she grimaced. "You should have told me." Instead of a response, he pushed her away and heaved over face first into the nearby trash can. "Oh, Rourke, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." "Yeah, I know," he groaned. Taking notice, Sam walked up to the can. "What are you—" Before Matt could finish, he'd knelt down and reached inside, emerging with a thin bone that appeared to be covered in some kind of sticky black substance. "I knew it!" Sam exclaimed while Matt tried to keep from getting sick himself. "He's eating babies." "Sam, that's a chicken bone! Put that down before you get a disease." Sam looked at it and then back at his friend. "Wait, why would he be eating chickens?" Once again, Matt's face was met with a palm. "You're so gross," Rain growled, avoiding her food to keep from getting ill. "What the hell are you doing, Sam?" Leah had appeared with her hands on her hips. "It's Rourke. He just got sick," he explained as he tossed the bone back into the trash while Liz suppressed a giggle. "I'm sorry, Rourke." "Yeah, sure you are. You and your stupid hamburger." "I said I was sorry." Yeah. Rourke?" Liz suddenly tilted her head. "Do you need a drink or something?" "No, why?" "You sound funny." "What do you mean?" Opening her mouth to continue, she suddenly stopped and began to stare while his own expression grew curious. "What?" "Rourke, your hair. There's something—" Liz gave him an odd look as he reached up and took a handful of it. Eyes widening, he realized it was beginning to turn black. It's probably from the garbage can," he stammered, beginning to look frantic. "Rourke, what's wrong with your voice?" He no longer sounded anything like himself, instead harboring a rather nasally tone that was somewhat obnoxious to listen to for any length of time. I think I might have gotten something caught in my throat." He began to cough and pointed at it. "Rourke, what's going on?" Liz regarded him oddly, and he instructed her to wait for him before tearing in the direction of the bathroom. "Rourke, just stay there. I'll be back in a minute." Rain stopped upon realizing he seemed to be turning into someone else. "Is he a shapeshifter?" Leah asked. "How can he do that?" "That's not normal. She has to see that." Staring at him with wide eyes, both Matt and Sam looked stunned by his shift in appearance, so much so that neither of them said a word, and Rourke only stopped running once he'd reached the door to the public restroom. Yanking it open, he ran inside and skidded to a halt in front of a large span mirror that hung across the sink where his own reflection caught his attention. Reaching up, he yanked off his hat and muttered a soft curse as the entire front of his hair had become a deep jet black.
"God damn it, Rose, why the hell do you always have to be right about everything? Shit, what the hell am I gonna do about this?"
Pacing around, he stopped as a toilet flushed from one of the stalls in back of him and the door pulled open to reveal the foolish bathroom patron. Meanwhile, Liz was beginning to grow concerned. Taking note of the direction he had gone, she blatantly disregarded his request to stay put and began to follow. "What's she gonna do?" Leah asked. "Probably walk in on him freaking out?" True enough, poor Liz had no idea what was going on the other side of the door as she pushed it open. "Rourke, are you in—" She didn't get to finish that sentence as he turned to stare at her, mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, while the body of a startled young man dropped from his hands. Bolting out the door, which swung shut behind her, the scream that escaped her was legendary, and Liz tore across the park in horror. Successfully managing to catch up, he reached for her arm, and the screaming only intensified. "Let go of me! Get off! Somebody help!"
"Liz, calm down. I'm not gonna hurt you. It's me, alright? Come on, just give me a chance to explain."
Whatever had been happening to him seemed to have been corrected, as he both looked and sounded himself again, although she wasn't exactly having that, and with one swift and particularly low kick, she nailed him as hard as she possibly could. The noise that escaped him as he barreled over was not something that could have been produced by human vocal cords. Shivering with the strange sway of motion, his entire image shifted for a split second, although it was far too fast for the eye to catch. "Oh, man!" Watching the scene play out, Sam had witnessed the raw kick with a wince. Demon or not, I guess some things never change.
That's not funny, Sam.
Matt shook his head while a look of absolute pain crossed his face.
I felt that.
Dude, I think we all felt that. Sam watched his work lay there twitching while Liz took off again. Rain finally felt relief someone had realized the truth, though she also felt a brief pang of sadness. Brushing it aside just as quickly, she cracked a smile and glanced at Leah. This is the best carnival ever. Sam shook his head. Damn, I think I'm done for tonight. Yeah, that was a bit much, Matt agreed while Rourke began to regain himself. Leah was grinning wildly and Rain looked somewhat smug. I bet that hurts in more ways than one, she said in delight. Pulling himself up, he indeed looked to be in a considerable amount of pain. Catching their eyes, his own narrowed and he began to edge away.
What the fuck are you looking at? He hissed. Show's over.
You got that right, pal, Sam said with a scoff. So much for true love, huh? Rain asked snidely. She really stuck by you there. Giving her a dark look, he didn't say anything as he turned to limp in the direction of the parking lot where his motorcycle had returned to the piece of plastic crap it had previously been. Maybe he decides to leave, Leah suggested. Now that he's lost his little girlfriend, it should serve as motive. Good riddance! Get the fuck out of my town, you freak! Sam screamed, although Rourke paid no mind. As for Liz, the poor girl had such a scare that she'd literally taken off. Running back to her house in terror, she raced inside and hurried to her room. She refused to open the door for anyone, despite her parents' persistent calls, as she curled up in bed, wrapped her arms around her pillow, and wept freely. Eventually, she phoned an old friend she had kept in contact with over the years. Sobbing her eyes out over the conversation, her friend tried to calm her down, but she only continued. Oh, Crystal, it was so horrible. It's Rourke. He turned into a soul-sucking demon. On the other end of the line, her friend simply scoffed. I hate to break it to you, honey, but he's a man. It happens. Trudging into his house, Rourke didn't bother to lock the door on his way upstairs with a look of devastation. Slipping into the bedroom, he headed for the mattress without a word while his tiny minion looked up from the pillow it was sleeping on.
Say I told you so and you're going out that window,
he said without much emotion. Tilting its head, the creature actually didn't respond and instead only continued to stare at him until he spoke again.
It was horrible, Rose. The way she looked at me. Why the fuck couldn't she just do what I told her to and stay put?
A soft eep escaped her as he reached over to grab a pillow.
I can't just walk away. I gotta try to talk to her. Maybe Monday after she calms down. Maybe I can get her to listen.
There was a long silence thereafter. Rolling over, Rourke turned to stare out the window and pulled back the blinds to reveal a heavily darkened sky.
Say, Rose, he suddenly asked, you ever wonder what it would be like to be like everybody else? You know? Just normal?
Raising her head again, Rose's eyes narrowed and he received a sharp eep.
Yeah,
he sighed, letting the curtains fall back into place.
Me neither.